Alright, so we're sticking with football on the SportsMax zone. Argentina were not the only nation who became the outright most successful team in their continental tournament history. This as Spain became four-time winners of the European Championship. In what was a closer match than many would have imagined, Spain took the lead in the 47th minute through man of the match Nico Williams before substitute Cole Palmer delivered a fabulous 73rd minute equalizer for the Three Lions. But La Roja had a trick up their sleeve as well, with their sub Real Sociedad's Mikel Oyarzabal poking home in the 86th minute to seal the victory. Well, Brent Sancho, he is still with us. Brent, this iteration of Spain became the first team to win all 7 of their games at the tournament. They must be deserving of this one.
Very much deserving. And I know we went at lengths to talk about why Spain would win last week. I got a lot of stick from the English fans, giving them absolutely no chance in winning. And I did that based on what I saw throughout the tournament. They were dominant. They have been a dominant force. They never changed their identity, which is very important in this discussion. They kept playing the same way. Even when they went to 1-1 in the finals on Sunday, they maintained their playing philosophy, their style, the way they approach a game. Let truth be told, they probably could have gone up 2 or 3 before they got the equalizer, the English that is. But all in all, when you look at the Spanish games throughout the tournament, they've been dominant in possession. They've been very, very dynamic in the way they attack teams. They have 2 special players in Nico Williams and Lamine Yamal, and they have scoring right throughout the teams and players that can score with precise passing, great movement, and have been very, very pleasing in the eye. Deserved winners of the Euros this year.
Yeah, and we have to, you mentioned Nico Williams, you mentioned Lamine Yamal, and there are so many others because we had Pedri, who was on the bench, then we had Gavi. When I think about just these 4 names, right, and I'm pretty sure there are many other players that are coming through the ranks, the future of Spain, Brent, can you imagine this Spain team in a couple of years from now?
I'll tell you something even more remarkable. This Spain team probably couldn't walk in the shoes of the teams of Iniesta and Xavi, etc. And a lot of the pundits in Spain would suggest that it's probably not the best in terms of names and paper. However, from a team perspective, an identity perspective, it's one of the best country playing teams I've seen. Of club is a little different dynamic, but from an international footballing perspective, the team that is very much that word, a team. This Spanish team is in, and you're right. As you go along, and players are coming back. There are a lot of players still that had missed through injury and through lack of form. Players that come in. You mentioned 1 or 2 Pedri and they being on the bench. There's still a lot of growth within this team. I still think they could possibly find out-and-out goal scorer. Morata is not that, but in terms of the growth before the 2026 World Cup, you could only see positives from it. They keep producing. They keep playing with the same team dynamic that they have now. You would have to say, as we sit here watching both the Copa and, of course, the Euros this year, Spain are definitely the favourites going into the World Cup in 2026.
Yeah, and I want to spend some time talking about Lamine Yamal, and I'm a bit worried as to who is going to try to poach him now or how it's going to work out for him. But, before we do that, we really need to speak about this England team, Brent, because what's for sure is a lot of the England fans genuinely believed in their heart that it was coming home. Now that it's all done and dusted and did not go home, a lot of the headlines are reading that, Gareth Southgate was a colossal failure. Everything he did, nobody was okay with what he did. They're finding so many negatives to speak about him. So your assessment, Brent Sancho, of what went wrong for this team, and is it really only the fault of Gareth Southgate?
Well, let's of course go to a particular part in the game, and that's when England scored, and they were in the ascendancy then. Of course, Cole Palmer came on, Ollie Watkins. They started to be a little bit more expansive. Watkins started to stretch the Spanish defense. You would have thought, Mariah, right there and then, England would have taken the game by the scruff of the neck with the type of players that we mentioned, and go on to win the football match. What did they do? They dropped off. They allowed Spain back into the match, and it was all she wrote. Now, the question is, and for a lot of you viewers that are out there, was that a coaching decision or was that a player's decision? Yeah. 9 times out of 10, the players on the pitch can decide whether or not that's the situation. However, I just felt that when you look at Gareth Southgate's approach throughout the tournament, I said this many times before, there was a massive fear factor from the English team of failure. And I think that presided over every single thing that they did. Once they scored, they decided to drop off because in their mind, the fear of losing started to come in and not necessarily the excitement of winning. And I think that has been the challenge in everything England has done, whether it's been Gareth Southgate decisions to the players themselves on the pitch. There was a massive fear factor because there's no one can tell me the Declan Rice that we see for Arsenal, the Phil Foden that we see for City, the Bellingham for Real Madrid, those are not the players that we saw in Europe. Those are not the positive playing players that we saw. And so it has to go right back to Gareth Southgate and the way he managed that group. There was certainly a fear factor over them, not the freeness that you would expect and expressions that you would expect for the type of players and quality of players that they have.
Yeah, and I'm happy that you brought that player discussion up because, a lot of fingers, again, Brent, being pointed at Harry Kane. Many people in Jamaica, they love to say, like, if things don't work out for you, you're salt. So I've been hearing a lot of people saying, like, it's just not destined for a player that has gotten so many individual accolades and trophies and prizes, Brent. It's like he just can't get this one thing to get him over the line.
Well, it's been a lot of conversation about him not playing 100% fit. So if that is the case, let's start the conversation there. If he's not 100% fit, then Harry Kane, as captain, as leader of this team, needs to put his hand up and say, Coach, I can't play. Better off someone else, please. If he's not mature enough to make that decision, then surely Gareth Southgate, looking at all those games in the Euros, must have said to himself and his coaching staff, something is not right with Harry Kane. His movement is not there. The way that we normally approach his football game is not there. We need to make a change. Every time Harry Kane comes off, it's a reactionary change. It has never been an explorative change. And for that, you have to question both, of course, Harry Kane and his leadership, and of course, Gareth Southgate, because at the end of the day, someone needed to take charge because the Harry Kane that we know and we've come to love as an international footballer certainly didn't show up in the Euros.
Yeah, and Brent, does Southgate keep his job after this?
Certainly not. There's no way he can. And as much as many would point to facts that he's been in this final and that final, the way that they've played, the type of players that they have, they should be doing a lot better. And there's nothing that I saw in this tournament that can suggest that they're going to go in a forward trajectory. I can't see it. It more to me looks like they're going backwards. This tournament easily being the worst compared to the last Euros. And Gareth Southgate have a lot of questions that he needs to answer. And a lot of it of course, comes around team selection, team tactical approaches, and of course the changes. And in all of those departments, I don't think he gets a passing grade.
Yeah. Would you think of anyone who could take over, who would be an option for England to replace Southgate?
Well, I think that's the challenge. If you look at the way that the English FA selects their coaches, they selected in the mold and kind that they are themselves. They want someone that is reserved, that sticks to the status quo, that is within the shaping of what the English FA is. There's conversation about Harry Potter, who fits that mold perfectly. I think they need someone a bit more dynamic, someone that thinks outside of the box, and they probably need someone outside of the UK, and it's not part of the coaching fraternity of the English FA. They need someone, because the players that they have that are doing very, very well all have one thing in common. They have foreign coaches. And so I just feel that a foreign coach would bring a different dynamic than what presents itself from the English coaching fraternity. In terms of names, I'm not sure. I would like to see a Jurgen Klopp. I know that's me being being very romantic, but I don't think that would happen. It won't suit him. But certainly they need someone of that ilk that would play that front foot type football for them. And maybe someone like a Luis Enrique as well at PSG. I like his style of football. I can go on and on with a list of coaches. The point I'm making is they need to think outside of the box and someone that plays front foot football for them.
Yeah, no titles for Southgate, but some reasonably deep trajectories into tournaments, 2 Euro finals, a World Cup semi-final. Would you rate his tenure as successful or a failure?
From where he got the team, Lance, and where he's taken them, certainly it's been an absolute success. He's done a tremendous job in turning around what was what almost shambles, I would say, in the English team, and turn them on into title contenders. At the end of the day, when you look at the runs they've had, whether you want to debate it's been an easy bracket or whatever, I don't think that factors into this equation. I think what he's been able to do with the team and make them and really hold them together, solidify them as a group and bring them together, I think he's done a great job. And just like anything else, I think he has a ceiling. In fact, he's reached a ceiling. This is as far as Gareth Southgate could take this team. I think there's some signs of course, players starting to question his tactics, and when those sorts of things starting to happen, I think it's time to go. But all in all, nothing can take away from the success story that has been Gareth Southgate and what he's done for the England national team.
Yeah, and before we go, Brent, you already labelled 2 years before the World Cup Spain as favourites. Now, I understand, given the makeup of the current team, how encouraging the immediate future looks for Spain. 5 of their players who played yesterday are 26 years or younger. And we saw them depart from the tiki-taka football of 10 years ago into a more direct game and showing that they can transition their football or evolve their football from what we knew them to be a decade ago, which you have in the past couple of weeks, Brent, in covering the Euros, credited them for and suggested that it just shows the kind of maturity in the philosophy of the game in Spain.
Yeah, and you have to give them a lot of credit because this was a team that was, of course, looked at as boring in terms of their approach, possession that was going nowhere, had lacking a number 9, a genuine goal scorer, goals not coming from different departments in the team. And fast forward to where we are now, and they're completely different. They've found ways now to win football games. Again, I use that word identity, the strongest identity. You could actually look at their approach to football games and have a very clear idea and picture as to what they are trying to do and what they're doing to hurt opponents. And more importantly, Lance, they don't change their style. They don't change 4 teams. They play the way they play throughout what they do. Now, I've labeled them as favourites going into 2026, and this in the backdrops of a disappointing Italy, a disappointing Croatia, a very disappointing France, and then you look at this side, of course, Brazil having their problems as well. If, of course, as we sit now, it's difficult to not look past Spain and what they're doing. If they continue the trajectory and all things being equal, I do feel that they can go into it with the young players, as we mentioned, that could come into this squad. They can be a team to be very difficult to beat in the World Cup 2026.
Yeah, and as we review Euro, Brent, I'm a German fan, as you know. I could suggest to you that as good as Spain were in the tournament, and I don't think I would argue that they were the best team in the tournament, but I would think that the Germany game is the only game they played in Euro they didn't dominate, which suggests that the Germans have some worth on the upward trajectory.
Well, another program that has done very, very well, and you would rightfully know the Germans have had their time in the rain, so to speak. They've struggled a bit in years previous, and they've really come to life. And because of the type of players that they're now looking at, the Musialas, etc., that are now Sane, etc., that are now explosive players, they change the way they play as well. And what I like about them, Lance, is that they can also change. They're very tactical, flexible. They're very flexible in their approach. Of course, when Faulkner comes in, they're a bit more direct. They have fluent words as well. It's a team that possesses tremendous attacking ability, tremendous attacking flexibility. Of course, Rudiger at the back provides tremendous solidity. That's the one department, though, Lance, I'm a little bit concerned with the Germans, the depth in the defensive side of things. However, from what we saw from them in the tournament, as you rightfully said, the only team that really shook the cages of the Spanish so far. If, of course, again, another team that continues to go, because there's a lot of talent from an offensive side for Germany, they as well could improve exponentially when it comes to the 2026 World Cup, which would make it very exciting with the type of teams that we see coming from Europe.
All right, Brent, we're going to leave it there. Congrats again on the fabulous work that you have done with the team at the Euros and the analysis and so on point, and showing your quality as a top analyst, Brent. We'll be in touch for sure in the coming weeks. Thanks, man.
Thanks, guys. Have a great one.
Yeah, and we go to break. Still a lot more to come on the SportsMax Zone, including a feature that takes us closer to the Olympics and the build-up for the Olympics, which starts on the 26th of July. Back in a moment.